Every year, we have a new set of playoff teams in the mix. Every year, I try to find who's going to pull it off. Last year, 6 of the 12 didn't make the playoffs in 2022. In last year's video, I pointed out 5 of the 6. Twins, Brewers, Diamondbacks, Orioles, and Rangers. I also mentioned the Cubs. They were very close, but they lost out to the Marlins. And I mentioned the Angels. That wasn't good. So last year was pretty good for me. Let's see if I can do it again this year. I wrote down 9 teams that could do this, but I want to narrow it down to a top 5. I'll just mention the 4 that I left out. Cleveland Guardians. I get them wrong every year, and this year I don't know what to expect. Did they overperform in 2022, or did they underperform in 2023? I'm not sure. In a weak AL Central, they could win like 84 games and grab a playoff spot, but I'm betting they won't. St. Louis Cardinals. Last year was so unbelievably bad, but I think they have a good offensive core. They're chock full of young talent, but when it comes to Arenado, and especially Goldschmidt, age is going to start bringing them down. I also don't love their off-season pitching moves, adding a lot of aging arms that are bound to break down. The NL Central is wide open, so it could be the Cardinals, but I don't have a lot of faith. Pittsburgh Pirates. It seems like this team is ready to burst out. They had a great start last year, a terrible middle, and a decent end. They played one game over 500 starting in August. I like teams that end strong. They won 76 games and should only be getting better. I just don't know if they can add another 8 or 9 or 10 wins they need to make the playoffs. Washington Nationals. This is pretty much the same story. A young team on the rise. Played 2 games under 500 after the All-Star break. They had a very good August, but September was a disaster, and I don't think they'll be good enough to take a wildcard spot, but they could be in the race longer than people think. Okay, now for the official list. Number 5, Detroit Tigers. We've seen this story before. In 2021, the Tigers won 77 games. That was 30 more than they won 2 years prior, and it looked like they were storming back. Then they come back in 2022 and win 66 games. Last year, they had a very strong finish, 18-10 the last month of the season, and they grabbed second place with 78 wins. Maybe they fall flat once again, or maybe this finally catches on. Their pitching was middle of the pack, 17th in baseball with a 4.24 ERA, and their best starter left and signed with Arizona, Eduardo Rodriguez. They replaced them with Kenta Maeda, took a flyer on Jack Flaherty, and also added some good bullpen arms, Andrew Chafin and Shelby Miller. The offense was bad, third to last in all of baseball in runs scored, but they have some good up-and-coming stars. Spencer Torkelson, Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter, and they hope at some point Javi Baez figures it out. They also traded for a good bat in Mark Canha, picked up Gio Urshela, so hopefully the offense gets better. They can't get much worse. I don't have a lot of faith in the Tigers, but I like young teams that finish strong, just like Arizona in 2022, so the Tigers take my number 5 spot. Number 4, Cincinnati Reds. This team tore it down in 2022, and it looked like it may be the start of a rebuild, but they bounced right back in 2023. They had a whole army of young players come through, everyone in their mid-20s or younger. Will Benson, Spencer Steer, TJ Friedl, Christian Encarnacion Strand, Matt McClain, and Ellie De La Cruz. Once these guys got their footing mid-season, they went on a big run. 12 straight wins in June, holding first place in July, and if it wasn't for a bad August, they would have made the playoffs. They played 500 down the stretch and finished with a winning record. That offense was number 9 in all of baseball, and those guys should only be getting better. Their pitching wasn't good. Their bullpen was middle of the pack, but their starters' 5.43 ERA was third to last. 4 of their main starters were 25 or under: Graham Ashcraft, Brandon Williamson, Hunter Green, Andrew Abbott. So they should only get better, and they got some more arms in the offseason. Emilio Pagan, Nick Martinez, Justin Brule, Brent Suter, Tyler Gilbert, and most important, Frankie Montas. The NL Central isn't going to be very strong. I think the Reds are going to be better than last year, so if they win 5 more games, that may be enough to be division champs. Number 3, Chicago Cubs. Here we go again. This is a team that I whiffed on last year, but they were so painfully close. They just fell apart in the last week, and that doomed them. They took a flyer on Cody Bellinger, and he paid off big time, finishing 10th for MVP, helping the Cubs offense rise up to number 6 in all of baseball. Their pitching wasn't bad either, a team 4.08 ERA, right in the middle at number 14. That collapse was one reason David Ross got fired, but he was also pushed out because the Cubs had a shot at Craig Counsell and they took it. He's seen as one of baseball's best managers, so let's see if he can take a good roster and get them over the hump. It looked like they were going to lose Cody Bellinger, but he came back around and re-signed. He'll be right in the middle of a good lineup, including established guys like Dansby Swanson, Ian Happ, and Seiya Suzuki, as well as guys that proved a lot last year, like Nico Horner and Christopher Morel. Plus, they should see what Pete Crow Armstrong has over a full season. They also traded for Michael Busch from the Dodgers, grabbing one of their top prospects that's major league ready. That lineup from top to bottom is very strong once again. On the pitching side, they lost Marcus Stroman, so that hurts, but they picked up Shota Imanaga, one of Japan's star pitchers, and helped their bullpen by trading for Yency Almonte and signing Hector Neris to a one-year deal. They have a veteran rotation: Jameson Taillon, Drew Smyly, Kyle Hendricks, and leading it is one of last year's best pitchers, Justin Steele. The Cubs have a clear path to win the NL Central, but at the very least should take a wildcard spot. Number 2, Seattle Mariners. Over the past few years, this team has been pretty predictable. That being said, they don't take the normal route to get where they end up. They start slow, they come on super strong, and they land right around 90 wins. The last 3 years, they have 90, 90, and 88. In 2022, that was good enough to make the playoffs. The other years, not so much. This year, I like their chances. They lost a couple key bats, trading Geno Suarez to Arizona, trading Jared Kelenic to the Braves. Marco Gonzalez was also involved in that deal, but they picked up Mitch Garver, also Luke Raley, got back Mitch Haniger, but they did have to part ways with Robbie Ray. They also traded for Anthony DeSclafani, but then flipped him for Jorge Polanco. Then, just recently, they signed another great bullpen arm, Ryan Stanek. It's been a busy offseason. It seems like a lot of these turned out to be lateral moves. They had the 4th best starting staff in 2023, led by Luis Castillo, George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, Bryce Miller, and Brian Wu. All of those guys are still there. They also had the 4th best bullpen, and without Paul Sewald or Justin Topa, that'll put more pressure on Matt Brash, Gabe Spire, Andres Munoz, and Ryan Stanek will help a lot. As for the offense, they were number 12 last year. Teoscar Hernandez didn't have a great year, but he's gone now, and they have to replace his 26 homers. Mike Ford is gone also. Kelenic and Suarez, as I mentioned, 75 homers among all 4 of them, so they're hoping Haniger, Polanco, Raley, and Garver can fill their shoes. They'll be joining superstar Julio Rodriguez. Hopefully, he has a faster start and the team won't sink into an early hole. We'll see if J.P. Crawford can repeat his great season. Cal Raleigh has emerged as a great offensive catcher, and maybe Ty France can bounce back after having his worst season ever. It's going to be close between the Rangers, Astros, and Mariners, just like last year, but I think they'll be on the right side of the ledger this year. Number 1, New York Yankees. Last year was just miserable, and that team was way too good to win 82 games. Aaron Judge only played 106 games, but when he was on the field, he was the best hitter in baseball. If he stays healthy, that just might be enough to get them into October. They also didn't get much from Anthony Rizzo. He had concussion issues and only played 99 games. He should be back. As for Stanton and LeMahieu, they might be back. They might be done. Who knows? They did make 2 big trades. One to the Red Sox to get Alex Verdugo, and one to the Padres to get Juan Soto and Trent Grisham. Suddenly, they have an influx of outfielders, and a couple extra bats to help round out a top-heavy offense. They were 25th in the majors in runs scored. That's 6th to last, coming off a year where they finished 2nd. That's what Judge not being in a lineup will do. Last year, they had the best bullpen in all of baseball, but they lost Keenan Middleton and Wandy Peralta. They had to trade Michael King to get Juan Soto, but they brought on some good replacements, including Caleb Ferguson and Victor Gonzalez from the Dodgers. And they're hoping guys like Clay Holmes, Tommy Kahnle, and Jonathan Loáisiga can carry the pen once again. Garrett Cole had his best season as a Yankee, winning the Cy Young, but the Yankees starting staff was still in the bottom half of the league. They need to get production from Nestor Cortez and Carlos Rodon. If they all click, this is a scary team, but only Cole showed up last year. Luis Severino is gone, but they signed Marcus Stroman to replace him. This rotation should be better than it was last year, so assuming this team stays even somewhat healthy, Giancarlo Stanton notwithstanding, I think they at least get a wildcard spot. So, those are the teams I think can make the playoffs. Next question, who's gonna drop out? I think the most obvious answer is the Brewers. It wasn't quite the sell-off they were implying, but they did trade Corbin Burns to the Orioles, and they didn't do much to get better. The rest of the Central is coming for them, and I think they get run down. I also think Minnesota is vulnerable, especially after losing Sonny Gray. But I don't love any other teams in that division, aside from maybe the Tigers, and Cleveland could catch them. The Dodgers, Braves, Phillies, Orioles, and even the Astros should be solid. I could see the Rangers, Blue Jays, and Diamondbacks falling out, even if they have good seasons, just being on the outside looking in. As for the Florida teams, I've learned not to doubt the Rays, at least not until the playoffs, and the Marlins are totally random. If Sandy Alcantara comes back, they could be even better than last year, but there's no way I pick them to go to the playoffs. I think last year may have been a fluke. That's all I have for now. Stay tuned next week for my official MLB predictions, and how many of these teams I actually have in the playoffs. Let me know what you think of these teams, and who you think will crash the party in 2024. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like, and if you're new here and want to stay up to date on everything baseball this season, please give me a sub. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.